Hey everyone, and welcome to the Self Love Fix podcast. This is episode 1. I am your host, Beatrice. In this podcast, we are going to get into self love, self compassion, self care, and of course, personal development. So, a little background about myself. I am young. I'm in my 20s, but because of life circumstances and experiences, I've learned a thing or two about all these things that I just listed. And I want to help share the knowledge to anyone who's like, look, I want to look in the mirror and love everything, like everything, both inside and out. So let's get into the podcast. In this episode, we are going to talk about the 7 ways you know if you are walking in self-love. So, number 1, you don't lament at yourself or drag yourself down every time you see someone seemingly living their best life, as in you don't compare yourself to others. So the first example, and I'm sure everyone can relate, when you hop on Instagram and you see your friends or your celebrities and they might, be looking really pretty or looking really attractive. And if you're walking in self-love, you're able to say, wow, they look great. And then just move on in your head, probably. You're just like, ooh, she looks really good today. Ooh, okay, I see you, abs. I see you come through, legs. You might say something like that in your head and you move on. Now, someone who doesn't walk in self-love, or they just might not be at that place in their journey, they might look at it and compare themselves. Look at the picture, that is. Compare themselves and be like, well, I've been working out day in and day out. Why don't my abs look like that? But people who love themselves are able to separate how they feel about themselves with how they feel about other people. And some examples that might even hit closer to home is maybe when you have that friend who is engaged in getting married, or, if you're in college or something, their friend who got an A on their OChem test, and look at that and be like, go off. Yes. Like, congrats on your engagement. I'm so happy for you. Congrats on getting that A. I didn't do as well on my OChem test, but you know what? You did well, and I'm proud of you. That doesn't say anything about my academic performance. Your ability to perform well does not put me at a deficit. This is the kind of dialogue people who love themselves have with themselves and with others. Once again, they're able to compliment and praise others without inserting themselves into the narrative. So maybe you want to get a journal out and think about, where does this come from? Why do I compare myself to others and, want to find something bad or wrong about them? Why do I do this? These kind of patterns and behaviors oftentimes arise from, your environment, maybe who you were raised by, your aunties and uncles, your parents. Maybe you've been around friends who have been doing this to you, like comparing you to themselves, and friends who don't compliment you or highlight the best parts of you. Our minds reflect whatever input it's been given. So really take some time and think about it. Like, where does this come from? And when you are journaling or having your self-reflection, you might discover where it came from. And it's important when you do, hash it out, feel your emotions, but don't sit there. Don't sit in a place of, well, because they did this to me, now I'm closed off and I can't be who I'm supposed to be for other people. I can't compliment people. I can't, not compare myself to people because of what environment I've been in. No, don't do that. Move from that place to a place of, how can I shift the paradigms I've adopted from others? How can I now reflect self-love? All right, and now moving into the second way you can tell if you are moving in self-love. So the second way you can tell is if you are listening to your body cues. Now, when I say your body cues, I mean when your body is speaking to you and telling you it's uncomfortable, it's stressed, it doesn't like something, you listen. What does this look like? If you are in someone's house, right? Say you're visiting your friend and for whatever reason, things start to get uncomfortable. You're not here for it anymore. You're like, I need to go. Like, in your head, you're just thinking, I'm really ready to go. But if you don't walk in self-love, what you're going to do is you're going to sit there and be like, oh, well, I don't really want to hurt her feelings. Oh, well, I just got here 15 minutes ago. I don't really, what's it going to look like to everybody else that's over at her house if I just up and leave? Let me just stay a little while longer just to not stir up anything. Well, when you're walking in self-love, that's not an option. If whatever made you uncomfortable, maybe somebody said something, made a remark, and it just wasn't okay, whoever's in the house, there just might be people you're not used to, and they are offending you, whatever's going on. If you love yourself, you are going to listen to the physical signs your body is likely showing you, which is you're tensing up, you don't want to be there, you just feel flustered and flushed, and you're ready to go. So when you walk in self-love, you're like, I don't even have to think about this. I'm recognizing what my body's telling me, and I'm going to respect it, and I'm going to honor it, and and I'm going to leave. And you know that that doesn't mean you're being mean. It doesn't mean that you're disrespecting your friend. It means that you're respecting yourself. But someone who might not walk in self-love thinks that them listening to themselves and listening to their body's cues is going to offend someone. And they're more concerned about offending someone else than about honoring themselves. And we want to get to a place where we are more concerned about honoring ourselves than offending someone else. There's a balance. There's a balance in everything. But primarily and first and foremost, you want to respect and honor yourself above all. Another way to tell that you listen to your body cues is, what do you do when your body is showing you physical signs of stress? And we all have different kinds of stress. Stress from if you're in college and you have exams coming up, or in grad school and you have, your thesis to write, or in your work life, you have deadlines to meet, things to present, things like that. So when you're stressed in those kind of situations and your body's showing you physical signs, like maybe you're not able to sleep correctly like you normally do, it takes you a while to fall asleep, you're having to take sleeping pills, you're probably getting a little bit of anxiety, maybe you're more agitated than usual, a bit snappy, a bit reactive. Those are the signs we usually have when we're stressed, or you're losing weight, all of these things. How do you respond to this? I know we have busy lives and it's not easy to do what they tell you, like what everybody tells you, which is take some time before you go to bed, do some stretches, read a book, write in your journal, all those things. It seems like we all know that we need to be incorporating these kind of almost self-care practices, but really and honestly and truly, if you're not incorporating them daily, are you at least incorporating them when you are under stress? Or are you just stuffing it up and ignoring it and just kind of being like, well, I have to do this. Well, I have to only get 4 hours of sleep because I have to do X, Y, and Z. I have to not journal and not read before I go to bed, or not stretch because I don't have the time. We make time for what is important to us. We make time for what matters to us. And we need to make sure that we are prioritizing our bodies and respecting and honoring that. And that's what you do when you walk in self-love. You are probably already having an hour before bed where you dedicate that time to no phone being on, or your alerts aren't on, and you're just, you're reading, you're doing your bubble bath, you're drinking your little glass of wine, you're doing your stretches before you go to bed, you're doing something nightly to make sure to dump out all of that stress somehow. But when you're not walking in self-love, that's not something you do. You are just go, 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 go. You're a machine. You are forgetting that you're a person. You're a human. You have a body that needs rest. It needs relaxation, and it needs to be recharged, and it needs to find an outlet for all of the stress, because in our lives, we all have stress. I don't care what you do, what you study, what your work looks like. We all have stress. So again, just to sum it up, listening to your body cues is that second sign of walking in self-love. The third way to tell that you are walking in self-love on a daily basis is if you are able to form and adhere to your boundaries. So what does that look like? That looks like knowing your limits, knowing what you can and can't tolerate, and being able to communicate that or to vocalize that. Now, it doesn't have to be in a way that's full of anger or anything like that, especially because not everyone knows your boundaries or is able to intuitively be able to tell that they've crossed your boundaries, because not everybody's boundaries looks the same. Like, your coworker might be okay with touching your shoulder every time they tell a joke, or hugging you every time they see you, or saying I love you, without barely knowing you. And that to some people is like, this is a little much. This is a little much. But to other people, it's like, oh, okay, I welcome that. It's fine with me. And so it would be your job to be able to tell that person that, hey, this, if it does make you uncomfortable, that is, hey, X, Y, and Z, it really doesn't sit well with me. I know you mean well, but I just need to let you know I really am not feeling okay about when you do this, that, and the third, and I'd really appreciate it if you don't. That's all you have to say. Just simple, gets the point across, not provoking any kind of, argument, really. It's just more like, hey, this is how I feel, and I'm communicating how I feel and letting you know what's okay and what's not okay with me. Someone who does not walk in self-love on a daily basis might not know when their boundaries have been crossed, or they might not speak up when they are crossed. And either one of those scenarios is basically has you cruising for a bruising, because what happens is you might start to resent them. You might start to have pent-up anger and emotions about, the boundaries that they violated or crossed, or your boundaries that they violated or crossed. So what might happen is something like, maybe your friend never remembers to pay you back after borrowing money from you. And so you don't say anything. So now it's the fifth, sixth, seventh time she's done this. And so because you waited so long, you're angry now, and you're resenting the fact that seems to be paying for other things but cannot pay you back. So now next time when you go to the mall and you see that she has money to buy, a shirt or a skirt or something like that, you might accidentally blow up and say something like, oh, okay, so you have money for the shirt, but you don't have the $40 that you owe me. Is that what it is? And you might get snappy. You might, get a little petty. And that's what we want to avoid, because your friend might really not even remember, even though it's never good to not remember to pay somebody back. We should all be remembering that. But for real, it just might have slipped her mind. She might have forgotten to get around to it. We don't know what's going on in her world. But if you would have reminded her on the second or third time instead of on the 10th or 11th time, it would be a lot easier to communicate. And it would prevent kind of that lashing out of emotions. And again, that's when you love yourself, you aren't worried about what your friend is thinking. You're not worried, oh, like maybe she might feel some type of way if I bring up the fact that she owes me money this early on. I'll just wait. No, it's not about being angry with your friend. It's not about, all of this, what's going on in her mind. It's you just want to address something that's important. You want to communicate it early on for the both of you. And that's not something to be afraid of. That's something that you are absolutely allowed, more than allowed, to communicate. It's completely valid whenever you have a boundary that you need to address. Because not everybody knows what you're thinking. Not everybody knows what you're feeling. They don't know what's okay and not okay for you unless you make that known somehow. And so to your friend, maybe she might think it's okay to pay you back months and months later, but that might not be okay by you. Maybe you want to be paid back immediately after she borrows money. Maybe not immediately after, but within a reasonable time frame. And you see, not everybody moves that way. So it's absolutely your responsibility to let somebody know, hey, this is what's okay by me. And that's truly walking in self-love, because you are stating what is right for you and what is okay by you. So the fourth way to tell that you walk in self-love on a daily basis is kind of an unorthodox one, but I promise it'll make sense as I tie it together. So it is that you live in a state of gratitude. So that means that you're grateful for your abilities, you're grateful for the things you have, you're grateful for even the way you look. Of course, we might have things that we want to change or alter, but at the core of it all, you are grateful for you and grateful for the things you have. You see, when you don't love yourself, you reach for what others have because you think it will make you feel better. You think it'll fill that void that you have. And you think to yourself things like, if I just had that man, that car, that purse, everything would be Gucci. But really, there's a void in there, and that void is self-love. It's impossible to love yourself and by proxy love yours while feeling ungrateful. And when I say love yours, I'm referring to J. Cole. We all know that song when he talks about loving yours. And I just think it's such a great way to look at things. Love what you have. Love what's around you. Love, I think he's talking about his significant other, but in any case, I'm using it to mean love yours. That really is a reflection of self-love, and I think a lot of us miss that. But if you view yourself with self-love, how could you not be thankful and grateful for everything you have and everything you are? Trust me, think about it, try it, and you'll see that it really is a reflection of self-love. The fifth way to tell if you are walking in self-love on a daily basis is that the company you keep around, like your friends, your family, your significant others, they are all uplifting and nourishing your spirit, and they don't leave you feeling less than or feeling badly about yourself or feeling unworthy. This means you have no issues letting people go if they are not for you, if they are dragging you down, if they're belittling you, any of that. Of course, family, friends, people who've been in our lives are, they're important. The relationships we have with them are important. But if they are causing you to feel badly about yourself, if they're causing you to feel unworthy or any of that, you don't need that around you. If you have that around you constantly, eventually you're going to adapt those same thought patterns and beliefs that they have about you for yourself. So when you love yourself, you're like, when exactly to remove people from your life. And then exactly when people deserve to stay in your life. So that's the fifth way to tell that you are walking in self-love on a daily basis. The sixth way to tell that you are walking in self-love is that you don't allow negative self-talk in your life. So that means you're careful about the way you speak to yourself. There's none of that, oh, you're so stupid, oh my God, you're so dumb, or wow, why didn't you think of that earlier, or anything like that. A lot of us do that without even realizing it. We just kind of are really hard on ourselves. We just say things that we wouldn't say to anybody else, to ourselves. But when you walk in self-love, that kind of dialogue, that doesn't happen because you're very forgiving of yourself. So if you make a mistake, you forget something, maybe you gained a couple pounds, you're not having that negative, harsh self-talk. Instead, it's just kind of like, maybe I did let myself go a couple pounds, but that's okay, we'll get back in the gym. Or, ooh, I definitely trusted that guy more than I should have, and that didn't go as planned, but you know what? I made a mistake. It happens. And now I'm just going to be a little bit more careful with guys I date. Or, oh man, I definitely overslept even though I have like a million projects to get done, but that's okay. It is what it is. I'll just use the time I have right now to be more efficient. So if you notice in each of those examples I gave, there is none of that self-loathing or, negative self-talk. It's really just, okay, I see that I made a mistake and I'm human and I'm going to just do what I can now going forward. Being forgiving with the self, being patient with yourself, super important. And it's a huge part of self-love. And so that was the sixth way to tell that you are walking in self-love, is that you don't allow any negative self-talk in your life. All right, so we made it to the seventh way that you can tell if you are walking in self-love on a daily basis. And this one, I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna be a toughie. It's gonna be a hard pill to swallow for some people. So number 7 is that you don't get defensive when others criticize you, whether it is constructive or unconstructive criticism. That is going to be very difficult for some people to understand, because most of us think that if somebody calls us out of our name, or if they say things that are not true about us, that we need to defend ourselves. It's kind of just a natural thing we do. But if you know who you are, you know yourself in and out, and you know that what somebody is saying isn't true about you, you're not even going to waste your time getting defensive, because there's nothing to prove. You don't need to prove yourself to this person. They have an idea that they've constructed about you, but that's not who you say you are. So why spend time arguing and fighting this person? And that's going for unconstructive criticism. Now, if it is constructive criticism and someone's really just trying to help you out, what you would do if you're walking in self-love is you're going to take that criticism and just be like, and look at it from an objective point of view. And you're going to be like, okay, I see what they're saying. Maybe I could work on this. I see their point of view. And you still don't get defensive, because you know yourself. So if you know it's something you can work on, you might take what they're saying, take it with a grain of salt, and implement it in your life, or you might choose not to. Either way, you don't feel less than about yourself, or you don't change the way you feel based on their constructive or unconstructive criticism. And that is number 7. And the last one for how to tell if you are walking in self-love on a daily basis. All right, so to sum up the 7 ways to tell that you are walking in self-love on a daily basis, we have gone over the first one, which was that you don't compare yourself to others. The second one, which was you listen to body cues. The third one was you form and adhere to your boundaries. The fourth one is that you live in a state of gratitude. The fifth is that the company you keep around uplifts and nourishes your spirit. The sixth is that you don't allow negative self-talk in your life. And the seventh is that you don't get defensive when others criticize you, either constructively or unconstructively. And I do have a bonus one. So my last one, which is my bonus, is that you know how to accept compliments. So what does that look like? That looks like whenever somebody compliments your hair, your skin, your anything, you're not saying, oh, but it's not really that great because X, Y, and Z, or, oh, actually my hair normally looks really, really bad. This is just, no, it must be just the hair cream I used today. No. Or, something like that. You don't feel like you have to qualify a compliment that somebody gives you. You can just take it. You just, when somebody says, wow, your hair looks real good, you'll just say, thank you, I appreciate it. You don't have to feel like you need to qualify it. It's just you accept it. That's what walking in self-love looks like. You see that somebody else is complimenting you and you're like, they think this, that, and the third is good about me. And you know what? It really is. I agree with you. And that's a real subtle one that some of us might miss. But don't feel like you have to feel bad about yourself when someone compliments you. No, take that and be like, yes, thank you. Just be thankful. All right, so after going over those 7 tips plus the bonus tip at the end, I hope that you all have done some self-reflection, or that you will do some self-reflection. I hope that I have, maybe got some things stirring in your mind, gotten you to think about your own experiences, and to, look at yourself and be like, am I walking in self-love? Am I not walking in self-love? I hope that this just creates that dialogue in your mind. I hope that you grab a journal and marinate a little bit more on this. And most of all, I hope this was useful and helpful for you. So that wraps up the first ever episode of the Self-Love Fix podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend about this podcast, and stay tuned. We've got much more coming. We're really going to expand upon some of the topics that we talked about in this episode, and much, much, much more. So look out for more episodes in 2019. Stay tuned. I hope this year is a great one for you. I hope that you are already getting started on your goals. And once again, thank you for listening to the Self-Love Fix.